Hi everybody, welcome to our NCO webinar. I'm Kath Arledge, the Artistic and Educational Director of NCO, and I'm thrilled today to be joined by trombonist Peter Moore and violinist Jennifer Pike, and they're going to be introducing themselves in a minute. Now, as many of you will have been on our webinars before, you will know, if you want to type a question for us, just go to the bottom of the screen and the Q&A button, and you'll be able to send us a question. And there'll also be some polls that will pop up for you to answer do a bit of voting on, to find some secrets about these amazing musicians. So over to you guys. Jennifer, could you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer and I play the violin and the piano a bit. But that's strictly when the doors and windows are bolted. So mainly the violin.
Fantastic. And Peter, tell us about you.
Well, hi everyone. It's great to be here. My name's Peter and I play the trombone. And yeah, a bit like Jennifer said, a little bit of piano as well, but only when nobody's listening.
Fantastic. So what these guys have not said, which is they're very modest, is they're both really remarkable and wonderful musicians. And they both were extremely young winners of the BBC Young Musician of the Year competition, which is going on at the moment, the 2020 version. And Jennifer, I think, was the youngest person to win it when she won it in, when was it, 2002? I think, yeah. And then Peter just pipped her to the post, a few months younger, again 12 years old when he won it. So I'm going to share a lovely little picture of you guys when you were in BBC Young Musician. So here it is. There's little Jennifer. How cute is she? Way back then. And it gets better because here's Peter when he won it back in 2008. So Jennifer, could you tell us a little bit about your experience of BBC Young Musician, the competition?
Yeah, it was an amazing time. It was life-changing. I remember everyone was really supportive and the excitement of the cameras following you around and the new people, great. And the whole thing took a year. So you know, I changed as a player as well and found the feedback really interesting. And yeah, I keep in touch with people that took part in the competition even now, which is really special. Checking up on each other during lockdown, which is really nice.
Fantastic. And Peter, what was your experience like?
Yeah, very similar. Very exciting from the word go, to be honest. Yeah, I think I thought of it less as a competition and more of just a kind of continuous journey that didn't stop. So yeah, I mean, the excitement of the cameras, I actually tried to put that all out of my mind in the end and just kind of focus on playing. But yeah, it was amazing. And I had a fantastic couple of years after the competition as well, with all these opportunities that are kind of thrown your way. Yeah, and it's just such a great platform really on which to build on.
Are you still in touch with people that you met through BBC Young Musician?
Yeah, well, not so much. I mean, a lot of them went to the same school as me. Some of them went to Cheetham School of Music, where I went at the time. So yeah, I knew them from there. Others, you kind of you see names that you come across and you think, oh yeah, I knew them from the BBC Young Musician. So yeah, it's kind of, the music world can seem incredibly small sometimes because you do keep running into the same names and faces, which is one of the amazing things about it, really.
Great. So we've got a first question in here, which is from Raphael and Gabriella for you, Peter. Why did you pick the trombone? Now, before you answer that, Peter, I think we might have a poll that is going to pop up to ask that exact kind of question. So we'll wait until that poll. Oh, here it is. Here is the poll. I don't know if you can see it. Peter chose to play the trombone because it looked like the most fun instrument out there. He realized he could poke annoying people with his slide. It can do everything, play really loud, but also play really quietly and really beautifully. Or it can play so many styles of music, brass bands, orchestras, jazz and pop bands. And I can see that there's some very interesting polling going on. I'll just wait for that to finish and we'll come back and we'll be able to answer Raphael and Gabriella's question as soon as we know how everybody's voted. So while we're waiting for that, Jennifer, how do you spend your musical life at the moment?
Well, right now it's all changed so much. So I've actually enjoyed getting back to the piano a bit, because a lot of my concerts were cancelled, and suddenly I just had a total change of path, like everyone else out there. And I thought, actually, I haven't practiced in ages, and why not just for fun, sit down and not to be good or not to be judged, and I loved that. So I really enjoyed it. And again, like, I have picked up the violin and done some fun things, like work out how to do garage band and edit different bits of music together, which is definitely not what I'm used to doing. So it's out of my comfort zone, but I'm enjoying it.
Fantastic. So we've got an answer to our poll. So drum roll, Peter. 37% think you like the trombone because it can play many different styles, but very hot on its heels is 35% think you chose it because you realized you could poke annoying people with your slide. And then going down, it looked like the most fun instrument out there is 15%, and it can do everything, play really quietly, is down at 13%. So give us the real answer.
Well, the real answer is because it looks like the most fun, because I like the other answers, but they're not really things that you think about when you're 6 years old. you don't pick up the trombone and think, oh, it can play in so many styles. So, yeah, I just chose it because it looked like fun, basically. I used to go and watch the local brass bands, and I remember looking at the trombone players and thinking, yeah, out of all the instruments there, I want to do that. What
is it that made 6-year-old you think that looked fun?
Well, I think it's because it's got a slide. It's that simple. I mean, it's not sophisticated. It's got a slide, and all the other ones had valves. So I think maybe I thought it looked more challenging as well. And I've always liked the challenge.
Great, fantastic. That's brilliant. So we'll get rid of the poll. Excellent. So, Peter, how were you spending your musical life before lockdown? You know, wind back, 2 or 3 months. How were you spending your weeks?
Well, what's really exciting about my life and my career at the moment is that no 2 weeks look the same. Everything is different. There's a lot of traveling, a lot of touring to some amazing countries. I do some teaching in London at the Guildhall School of Music, and I'm currently on a sabbatical from my job in the London Symphony Orchestra, so enjoying doing bits of freelancing, recording in the film studio, and then some solo work as well. So actually it's an amazing variety of work that I'm lucky to have. That's kind of what people call a portfolio career, isn't it? That you've got lots of different musical kind of activities and heads and things to keep you like really challenged and excited musically. Is that how it feels? Absolutely, yeah. There's always you sort of almost pick up the instrument every day and you think, okay, what's next? There's not so much time to focus on one immediate project or deadline. And I've always enjoyed that approach more than kind of working on one thing for 1 month, 2 months, and then delivering that. So I like the spontaneity of my career at the moment. Yeah. Great. So Jennifer, we have a question from Caroline Green for you. What is your most inspiring piece of music?
That is a tough question. Good question. But I guess, well, right now I love The Lark Ascending, Vaughan Williams. I love that piece. I do play it a lot, and people ask me to play it. And I did not like it when I was first asked, can you play this piece, when I was 15? And simply because it was popular, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do anything that's popular. And then I picked it up and I just fell in love with it. It's just this amazing, amazing piece.
And Peter, do you have one single piece that you could kind of pull out to say was a really inspiring piece for you?
Do you know what? It's a very, very difficult one. I think, there's just so much music out there, and I'm inspired by so many different styles. I think, probably the first classical piece of music I listened to was Brahms' Second Symphony. And, but there are all sorts of things, and all sorts of different styles, jazz, and so it's difficult.
Right, we've got another poll. Very exciting. It's about Jennifer's favourite meal. Jennifer's favourite meal would be scrambled eggs followed by Jaffa cakes, spaghetti bolognese followed by custard creams, or fish fingers followed by digestives. Okay, so we'll see what everybody thinks would be the right answer to that one. Great. Now, Eliza has asked, perhaps, Peter, could you tell us a little bit about what musical activities you did before you were a young musician? So what was your journey to that moment where you you landed at the competition?
I was playing in lots of groups, lots of organisations. I was playing with brass bands a lot, which is a big tradition in the north of England, where I'm from. And yeah, I think what I was most lucky to have was just a wide variety of different ensembles to play in. You know, not so much kind of orchestral work, but we did a lot of sort of trombone quartets and brass bands and wider ensembles, and that was probably the most valuable thing for my playing, to be honest, leading up to that.
Brilliant, thank you. So I think we've got an answer to the poll now, Jennifer. So drum roll, she's going to have to reveal the answer. So 23% think scrambled eggs and Jaffa cakes, 56 think spaghetti bolognese and custard creams, and 21 fish fingers and digestives. So could you tell us what the real answer is?
Well, drum roll. It's actually scrambled eggs, but I will say not usually followed by Jaffa cakes. It's usually, I just got this horrible image of scrambled eggs with Jaffa cakes on the same plate. No, it's not quite like that, but a Jaffa cake, you know, especially right now, I'm just reaching for them. I really shouldn't, but I do love a Jaffa cake.
Brilliant, great, fantastic. Now, I'm just going to do a little screen share again to show you, both of you guys, but also the children out there, what some of them have been up to, because we've had a lot of lovely tweets and messages coming to us about your activities. So let's have a look. Here's some people enjoying our webinars, which is so lovely to see. And at the end of this webinar, we're going to have an opportunity to do a bit of a selfie with Peter and Jennifer. So if you want to get phones and things ready now, we'd love to see a few more pictures like this of you guys enjoying our webinars. So there's another, that was the Sarah Willis, Jonathan Kelly webinar, and the same one there. That's when we did our first selfie. So that was exciting. And this was last week's one with the London Symphony Orchestra and the lovely NCO hoodies in there and the NCO teddy. So please keep sending all these lovely images to us. We know many of you joined Jess Gillam's Virtual Scratch Orchestra, which was an amazing project, and it was fantastic. We were playing Spot the NCO Kid. We were watching the video. There were so many of you, and some of you playing more than one instrument in the same recording, which was amazing. So great to see you doing that. Of course, a lot of you are doing this round of applause on Thursday night for the NHS. And some really lovely little music making coming out from all around the country, I think, from our NCO kids. Many of you joined in the NYO, Ode to Joy, and there was a lot of Ode to Joys flying around that week on the internet. And there's a few more. Some of you have been doing the thing that Jennifer was talking about earlier, the collage concert, recording yourself and overlaying it. And there have been some really fabulous examples of that. And here's Nyan playing, I don't know how many, it's 5 instruments himself in his own recording. So thank you everybody for sharing all that amazing work. We know you are kind of making friends again through the webinars, which is really lovely to see. So there they are on watching us, but on the phone to each other at the same time, which is very sweet to see the connections building, even if we can't be together as well. So please get your phones ready for a selfie at the end, and keep sending us or tweeting us anything you want because we're missing you and we really want to see what you're up to. So there we are. I'll end the screen share there and we'll come back to our guests. Right, okay. Oh, here's another poll straight away. Peter, if Peter was not a musician, he'd like to be a footballer, a psychologist, an astronaut, a video game creator, or a politician. And at the moment, politician isn't doing very well at all.
I was going to say, I like all of those answers apart from politician.
Okay, well, we won't go there. We'll see what people think you would like to have been. Brilliant. Okay, so we've got a question from Charlotte Golder. I think this one is for you, Jennifer. Have you ever had an embarrassing moment when you've been performing?
Yes, many embarrassing moments, and they kind of make you who you are at the end. So if you've had an embarrassing moment, don't be ashamed of it. What happened to me was when I was at Stock Youth Orchestra. I was about 8 or 9. My desk partner and I were sitting at the back of the orchestra, always a fun place to be, and we were on stage during a concert. And the next movement of a piece was coming up, and we realised, turn the page, there's no music there. Oh my gosh, both looked at each other and thought, what are we going to do? It was like panic all over the place. We were so nervous, and we just mimed and hoped that nobody in the audience would notice. So I think we got away with it. We must have looked rubbish, but there you go.
I wonder if that's ever happened to an NCO child. If you want to own up now, you can own up on the chat to having got lost or not had the right music and just mimed your way through something. I'm sure. Have you ever done that, Peter? Have you ever mimed anything?
Yeah, well, I was always told never own up. So no, I have mimed something, yeah, but we were asked to mime it. So yeah, so not quite the same thing. But I had plenty of embarrassing moments. One thing I would say actually is that it's impossible really to be embarrassed when you're on stage. You know, if you get into that mindset of kind of you know, that sort of exuberating confidence, it's like that's a nice way to be. It's like nothing can really harm you on stage. You know, I've always kind of thought that. So even when little things go wrong, this sort of it's all part of the performance. You know?
I wish I'd had Peter's advice at that time. I would have needed to hear that on stage.
I'm sure you nailed it, Jenny.
Oh, don't want to see. I hope there's no video evidence.
Great. Okay, so we've got the answer to the polls, to the poll for you, Peter. So 41% think you would like to be a video game creator, 22 tying a footballer and an astronaut, 13% a psychologist, and 1% a politician. 2 people thought you should be a politician.
Very good. That's people that have just logged on then.
So what's the answer?
Yeah, so the original answer I gave was actually psychologists, but now that football is written up there, I think that's probably an even split, to be honest. I think a lot of 10-year-old boys dream of being a footballer. Certainly back in my day they did. So yeah, I think psychologist or footballer.
I think actually all the male guests we've had on these webinars have said footballer. Shaku said footballer, and Tom Taffender, our wellbeing lead, said footballer. So yeah, it's something. I'm sure there's a lot of NCO kids out there thinking the same thing. Great. So let's get rid of that poll. And so Peter, tell us about counting rests as a trombonist. We know that a lot of our NCO kids find counting rests quite hard, find counting rests quite boring, I'll kind of find it difficult to sit there for a long time and then suddenly play something difficult. So tell us about the life of the rests in the trombonist world.
Well, it's very interesting you say tell us about counting rests, because if you're clever about it, you don't actually ever have to count rests. Quite often in the music, there will be little cues, other parts written in the score that you can follow. And if you actually use your ears, you can listen out for things, and then you know where to play. And also, if we know the pieces as well as we maybe should do, I mean, there's a lot of pieces that we get through, but yeah, we should maybe know where to play anyway. But counting rests, yeah, there are occasions where we do have to do it, and you know, just rely on a good person next to you to count them for you.
So you work as a team, do you?
Exactly. Yeah, take it in turns. Yeah.
Do you ever do that thing where you count on your fingers?
No, I've never done that. Because I haven't got enough.
Too many bars rest.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. Top advice on the rest. We don't have that problem as violinists, I don't think, Jennifer. It's just not.
I remember at Stockport Youth Orchestra, counting was not my strong point. No, I had a very good desk partner. She was on it. I just followed what she was doing.
I think there is a serious point there, isn't there, Peter, that the better you know the score, the less you need to count. Yeah,
definitely. And actually, you know, people think that sometimes we may have an easy time of it counting all these bars fest, but rest assured, we don't have an easy time of it, because when we do come in and eventually play, everybody knows about it usually. So there's no hiding places. There's that wonderful saying, you know, you're either really bored or really scared.
So do you find sitting there and counting the rest sometimes is kind of makes you nervy at all?
It can do if you've got a solo coming up, yeah, because you end up kind of focusing more on what you've got to play in 5 minutes time or 10 minutes time, rather than possibly if there's more notes in the violin parts, they won't be thinking, they'll just be playing, they'll be in flow, you know. So yeah, I think you do have to, it is a different mindset, and it's nice to come up with ways to distract yourself. I usually think about football. So.
Isn't that, oh, look, we've got another poll. Fantastic. If Jennifer was not a musician, along the same lines as the last one, she'd like to be a writer, a film director, a fashion designer, or a photographer. Okay, so we'll see what you come back with that. Great, so we've got another question for you, particularly Jennifer, from Nina Lynn. Were you annoyed when Peter broke your record as the youngest ever BBC Young Musician winner?
I thought you would never ask a question. Of course, now's the time. I've got Peter on my screen, I've got my fists ready. Yeah, that, funnily enough, that does follow me a lot, you know, on radio interviews. I'm like, so you were the youngest ever. I'm actually not the youngest ever anymore. So I was really annoyed, but then I met him and then I realized, oh, I can't be annoyed. How can you be annoyed when you hear me play?
I would say, actually, you know, it is interesting sort of having competition success at that age. Because you don't really know what it's all about. I certainly didn't know what it was all about yet. You know, I was just kind of getting going, and you don't think too much, you just play. And I think there are a lot of challenges that come with having, you know, success in a competition at that young, definitely. You know, because you still got to grow up as a human being, you know.
Definitely. Yeah, I hear you. It can be annoying, it can be, yeah.
Great, so it looks like our poll is done for you, Jennifer. So 38% think a fashion designer, 24 a photographer, and 19 both a writer or a film director. So
I want to be all those things. I want to just say, whoever has come up with the other answers, brilliant. I'm really, thanks, Catherine. So the answer is, I've changed my mind now. No, it's a writer. I always loved writing. I just, yeah, words and the sounds of words I loved. But can't think of it. Fashion designer. But bin bag is my usual style, so it could never be.
So do you write things?
Yes, actually during lockdown, at risk of sounding a bit pathetic, but I'm quite proud of my efforts. I like writing poems. I was feeling, you know, a little bit kind of blue one day. I just thought, well, I'll take a walk and I'll write a funny poem, and I did, and it cheered me up a lot. It's not really publisher worthy, but it did get a few laughs from my friends.
Brilliant. Great. Right, so I've got another question for you, Peter. Hester Wiltshire wants to know, how do you stay motivated to play when there's no concerts now to work towards? Good question.
It's a really good question, yeah. It's tricky. It's tricky. There's no bones about it. You know, it's very difficult when there's nothing really on the immediate future. I found actually listening to as much music as I can at the moment to be helpful. You know, we don't always have to feel this pressure to practice every day. Sometimes it's good enough to have a day maybe where we listen to a bit of music and work that way and be inspired that way. It's very, very difficult, especially for you know, not wishing to sound patronizing, but for young children to continue practicing when there's no concerts. You know, it's very, very difficult. The concentration and focus you need are tricky. So I think actually, if we don't feel like playing, that's okay. We shouldn't, you know, we shouldn't be too upset with that. But actually, just listening to music can sort of remind us why we do it. You know, because if we just practice and don't listen, then what are we practicing for? What are we aiming for? You know.
And we've got time to listen now, haven't we?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Jennifer? What's keeping you motivated at the moment?
Well, I've really enjoyed having a bit of a break from practice at the beginning of lockdown. So cooking and just going out for walks and reading some of my favourite books. And then I found, yeah, as Peter said, listening to music again and just, you know, nothing to do with the violin. That's been really wonderful. And then when I picked the violin up again, I just thought, I've got a new perspective and I'm excited with how I can take it to another place. So, yeah.
Great. So, Peter, have you ever played on any film soundtracks or for any video games or for anything anything like that in that world?
Yeah, I have actually. Quite a big part of my my career now is commercial film work. So yeah, recent films. I mean, my mind's gone blank now, but some of the recent Marvel films that have come out, I've played on. And then the Star Wars video games that have been released in the last 3 or 4 years, and you know, it's really interesting because you go into the studio and you don't see the music beforehand, so you just sit down, you play, it gets recorded, and then you go home. So quite often you can go in and do a whole day of work and not even know what you were recording.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, it might be written somewhere on a form somewhere, but you're just reading what's in front of you, and you play, and then you go home without even knowing too much about the project you've been part of. It's really weird.
So you literally turn up and there's music on the stand that you've never seen before, and the light is on and you're recording and it's going.
Yeah,
amazing.
And sometimes you don't even get one read through. It's just red light is straight on.
Wow.
Wow.
Have you ever done that kind of thing, Jennifer?
A few times, and I've always felt out of my comfort zone, because very much what I usually do is just to work and work at a piece until I feel like I'm really comfortable with it, and then play it on stage. So actually being faced with a new piece of music and then having to immediately pull it out of the bag is, I imagine, really exciting, but it's something that when I've done a few times, I've been like, wow, this is a challenge. This is really, really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different way of working, isn't it? Certainly. Okay, we've got another poll, Peter, for you. I don't know if you can see it. Peter's favourite places to visit on tour are Tokyo, New York, Los Angeles and Paris, Amsterdam and Sydney, or Hong Kong and Moscow. So I think those all sound quite exciting at the moment. We can't go to any of them.
You know what? I remember what I said for that, but yeah, those are the only place I haven't been to out of those places is Moscow, and I love all the rest of them. I haven't been to Moscow, so.
Great. Well, we'll see what the real answer is. Did you have any favourite films, Peter, when you were growing up? Any sort of real childhood kind of loves?
As a child, I watched all the Disney films, you know, and I watched Star Wars and all those sort of things. Yeah, I was a big fan of the Disney films, partly because of the music.
Yeah.
Probably mainly because of the music, you know. So. Did
you have a favourite Disney?
You know, things like The Lion King. That was a classic. Yeah, all sorts of stuff. I was big into my Disney films when I was young. Yeah.
We've been rewatching a lot of the Disneys because they did a 7-day free trial, I think, for the Disney Channel. Right. So with my kids here, we've been reliving the childhood and going back and watching all those films that we loved when we were growing up. So it's great. What about you, Jennifer? Do you have a film in your childhood that was the one film?
It's really hard to pick one. Actually, I really feel like watching Disney films now that you've mentioned that. I love those. But also, I really like old movies. I loved Sherlock Holmes. I still love Sherlock Holmes, the character. And actually, maybe some of you at home haven't seen these because it's like a black and white, made in the 1940s. So it's really spooky, it's scary, with Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes, and I just loved it. And the old music, the old sound of the violin in those days was really beautiful and kind of over dramatic, which I liked.
Now, of course, he plays the violin, doesn't he, Sherlock Holmes?
He does. I guess a lot of violinists, maybe some of you out there, will definitely enjoy that Sherlock.
Has there ever been a Disney Sherlock Holmes Disney kind? There hasn't, have there? Perhaps there should be.
I think there has been. Wasn't there like there was one with the great mouse detective? I'm not quite sure if it was Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
It's quite good. I enjoyed that one. Yeah.
Great. Right. So the poll is in, Peter. 37% think Tokyo, New York. 31 Amsterdam, Sydney. 20 Los Angeles, Paris, and 12 Hong Kong, Moscow. So drum roll. What's the answer?
Yeah, they've got it right. The 37%. Yeah, Tokyo,
New York, your favourite places. Tell us why. Why are those your favourite places?
Two entirely contrasting places to visit. I think the main thing I love about New York is just it's the best city in the world to walk in. You know, you can't get lost just because of the grid system. So you can see all these amazing things and not even have to look for directions. And just kind of getting a sore neck looking up at all the buildings. You know, it's just amazing. Tokyo for the kind of hospitality. I just think the Japanese are such a welcoming country. Amazing food. Yeah, those are the places that I look forward to the most when they come up in the diary.
Great. What about you, Jennifer? Do you have a favourite touring place?
It's a tricky one. I did really enjoy visiting Singapore. I think that's a great place. It's so, the buildings are exciting, but I chose it mainly, when you asked me that question, I chose it because the buildings, it's like concert halls that look like a hedgehog, which I really like. And also the university has a great concert hall, so I love it for that.
Brilliant.
Singapore's the one.
Sorry, go on, Peter.
Singapore's the one with the boat that goes over the towers, isn't it?
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? It's just like a swimming pool at the top of street.
Wow, amazing. Great. So I've got a question for you, Jennifer, from Marcus. Is the life of a classical musician very challenging?
Short answer, yes. Very challenging. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I think that the travel is the hard part, or was the hard part, and also the fun part. Getting, to A to B, from A to B, and then also to meet new people and work with different people every day. It's always different, but the challenges are the good sides of it too. So I wouldn't change it. I love that it's different every day, and meeting new faces is great. Keeps it interesting.
Brilliant. And I've got a question for you, Peter, from Henry, saying, do your lips ever hurt after long periods of practice?
Yeah, sometimes. I always say to brass players that, students, actually, if they don't hurt, that's good. We shouldn't really kind of practice to the point of exhaustion. So we have to look after the lips. It's very important that they don't always feel tired. I think it's okay to overwork them occasionally, but I would say if it's something that's happening on a daily basis, that's probably not that promising. So we have to try and stay fresh as much as possible, because it's just like using muscles in the gym or playing sport. It's very complex, the muscles in the lips. So keeping them fresh is kind of the most important thing, I think. You
said earlier that it was important not to get a football in your face.
Yeah, that is important. Yeah, I haven't quite managed that. I did get one when I was yeah, no lasting injuries, so that was fine.
What about braces and kids? Because a lot of our NCO kids have braces and play brass instruments. What is the advice around that?
Well, I suppose if you have to have braces, then you have to have braces, really. There's not a lot that can be done about it. I would certainly not say to not have them to protect your brass playing. If you need your teeth sorting out, then do it. But yeah, I mean, they do affect some people because they kind of change where the mouthpiece sits on the mouth. So yeah, I don't know, because I never had braces. But I know people that have kind of struggled with it. But I suppose, if they come off eventually, then you just pick up where you left off, hopefully.
Yeah, I guess you can work in other ways. I think it gets quite sore, I think, for young players if they're playing with braces on. But yeah, great. So Evie Cooper has asked, have you ever played in an ensemble together, you two?
No, but we did. Well, I think the last time we shared a concert was the Proms in the Park.
Oh yeah, vaguely, I have a memory, never of the actual concert, but I do remember meeting you and thinking, and now's my chance to, get rid of this talent that keeps stealing my titles. No.
2008, I think. It was a long time ago.
Gosh, yeah, time flies. Wow.
So I've got a question from Anna asking you both, are you from musical families? And if so, what instruments do your family play? Peter, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I come from a musical family, yes. My parents were both horn players, French horn players. They don't play anymore, but they both kind of were professional players at some point. My brother is currently a trumpet player who sort of works in and around Manchester, and my sister used to also play the piano. So yeah, music was all around growing up. And actually, interesting, they tried to sort of steer me away from it. I'm not quite sure why, but I was very adamant that I wanted to do it, so they let me. which was nice of them.
There was quite a sweet interview I saw when you won BBC Young Musician, and your dad was kind of pulled out the audience, and they said, how does it feel, or what's it been like doing this? And he said something like, he's just doing what he loves to do. So obviously you had a passion from a very young age that that's what you were going to do.
That's very important. We have to always, I mean, it's an amazing life to be a musician, but actually it's not without its challenges. Like every profession, I think the most important thing is that you're passionate about what you do. And I'm very fortunate that I am, so I wouldn't change it for the world.
Okay, we've got another question. Oh, another poll, even more exciting. This is the fun one. So Jennifer has a hidden talent impersonating birds. Okay, her best impression is a duck, a woodpecker, a lark, or a wood pigeon. Okay, so we might have to ask you to do this. I don't know how you feel about that, Jennifer. I didn't warn you of that. But are you ready? You're warming up.
I am. I'm just going to ask my pet bird to wake up, and then she might.
Okay, well, we'll wait and see which bird we're going to hear in a minute before we hear it. Great. So I've got a question perhaps for you, Peter, from Isla. Do you prefer classical music or movie music?
I'm interested in all music that is good, basically. So I don't like this sort of segregating music into certain categories. I think if it's music, it's music. And I think, part of the thing we should be doing now is sort of maybe knocking down those barriers and just calling music music. So the simple answer is I don't have a particular preference, really. Yeah.
How would you answer that question, Jennifer?
Sorry, I was too busy thinking, oh my God, I need to impersonate this bird. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I won't ask you that one then. Are you ready to have a go at your bird, or do you want to go and have a quiet moment and do it somewhere else?
I will watch it back and study carefully your answer, so don't be offended. But yes, if you would like to
okay, well, let's see what the answer is. People think 35% think a wood pigeon, 31 a duck, 23 a lark, and 11 a woodpecker. So what's the answer?
In fact, the answer is, well, actually, maybe I should do the impression. And
okay, good idea. You do the impression and we'll see if we can guess what it is.
Okay. Are you ready? Oh no, he's asleep. My wood pigeon.
Very good. That was excellent. And so people were exactly right. It's a wood pigeon. Now that's a strange talent to have. How did you develop that talent?
Actually, a friend of mine could do it, and I thought, this is amazing. I love the sound, and so yeah, I just said, please, can you teach me how to do it? And I'm very happy that occasionally she accompanies me on my trips.
Brilliant, great. So I think we've got time for one more question before we go to our selfie moment. Okay, so everybody out there, get your phones ready for our selfie moment, and we'll have to think what we're going to do. We need to do some funny face or something. Have you got your instrument? You haven't got your instruments there. Should have warned you.
I do have mine. Yeah.
Mine's over there.
Okay, great. So you can do something with your instruments. We'll get that ready. Oh, they've all gone, left me on my own. Here we are.
Can we swap, Peter? I'll have it.
Okay, we won't use it just yet. So we're just going to answer this final question from Amelia. For you, Jennifer, what's your favourite concert hall?
That is a great question. I think my favourite concert hall is in Sweden. It's in Stockholm, actually. It's the Royal Swedish Concert Hall. It's fantastic. Scottish as well. I love Scotland too. Yeah, difficult question, but that one.
Do you have a favourite concert hall, Peter?
Yeah, that one that Jenny mentioned is amazing. Yeah, in Stockholm. Also, Suntory Hall in Japan. Musikverein, Vienna. Yeah.
So many great halls out there, aren't there? Brilliant. Okay, so I think we've come to our selfie moment. So I'm going to try and take a selfie of us all here. Is that working? No, I'm taking a picture of my house. That's not working. There we go.
You've got a selfie stick.
A selfie stick. Do I do it like this or like this? Yeah, that's it. I've got it. I've worked it out. Sorry, I can't get it back to front. All right. So, what kind of pose are you going to do?
Oh, do we have to do silly poses?
Yeah, I think you do, definitely.
I'm confused at what screen we should be looking at.
Just look straight out. That's good. Just do something with your anything with your instrument, and that's good. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. There we go. There's our selfie. Brilliant. Thank you. Now, if you can send any of those in to us, or if you want to tweet them or share them in any other way, that would be fantastic. So that leaves me to tell you about our very exciting next webinar. Next Friday at the same time, we are going to be talking to, drum roll, Mirga Grajanita-Tila, who is the music director of the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. She's a young conductor and amazing musician. So we're really only found out today that she was able to join us next week. So that's super exciting. And she's going to be joined by Jonathan Bloxham, who's the conductor that some of you will know, who was going to be conducting our main orchestra at Easter, when sadly we had to cancel the courses. And the exciting thing about those two is that Jonathan was Mirga's assistant at the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra for 2 years. So they know each other quite well. So it should be quite a little bit like you guys. It hopefully should be not only fantastic musicians and really interesting people that we're talking to, but actually people that know each other a little bit, so we can have a bit of fun together. So I just have to say a huge big thank you to you both. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing all your wisdom and humour and being such fun. It's been a real treat to have you with us. So we look forward, NCO Kids, to seeing you all same time next week. And in the meantime, we'll just all say goodbye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.